CJ, tonight? Yes?
Yep, that's correct. Sorry.
Okay. Anyone out there for the privilege of the floor?
I just have a comment.
Sure.
Looking over the trails master plan, whoever's been working on that, nice job. I'm sure there'll be some tweaking, but everything is looking very, very nice. Nice presentation.
Okay. CJ, no one?
No, just that you're about to hear from those folks. That's MJ Engineering
Okay,
and Place Alliance.
All right,
And
why
they,
don't you,
sorry, go.
yeah, why don't you go ahead and admit them and let's see what they have to say.
All right. This is Jackie Hakes from MJ Engineering, going to present here. Hopefully you saw Pat Terrell's email.
Yeah.
Parks and Recreation Supervisor not able to attend. His wife is having surgery, so we wish her well. And I said he could always watch tomorrow.
Hi, Jackie.
Good evening. Hello, everybody.
Hi. I guess the floor is yours, so we're open.
Okay, awesome. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you some highlights of the Parks, Recreation, and Trails Master Plan. And if it's okay, I do have a presentation that I'm going to hopefully try to walk through fairly quickly with you, and I can certainly share that with you later. But to help provide a little context for what I'm talking about, hopefully everybody can see my screen. Okay, wonderful. So yes, I'm Jackie Hakes with MJ Engineering. I am the project manager for this effort, and MJ Engineering was leading the effort, working with the town and the Parks, Recreation, and Trails Committee. Also a part of our team was Place Alliance. So they were a big part of developing the concept plans for the project. So today I really just want to walk through the project. I'm sure most of you are familiar with what we've been doing, but just want to share with you because it has been a little time with COVID thrown in the middle of things. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on what has occurred and where we are in terms of the proposed concept plans and the draft master plan. So in terms of a project overview, and like I said, I'm going to move through this quickly, but if you have questions, I'll try to pause periodically. Certainly happy to entertain any questions or comments. With regard to the project, the purpose of this effort, pardon me, was really to develop a community-supported plan that provides guidance for the town and the overall community for future development or redevelopment of your parks, trails, and recreation areas. And this is not only from a facility standpoint, but also from a programming standpoint. And the approach that we took with the town on this was to rethink the physical space and any programming opportunities within your park system, to reconnect not only physically within your parks, but visually to the waterfront, where those parks are along the waterfront, and programmatically to meet the needs of the community. And then also to refocus, what activities are taking place within your various different parks, because they all do serve different functions for the community, and maximizing that space. And to, in large part, really refocusing on the pedestrian realm within the park space. How do we do that? There was a series of tasks in our work program that we worked through with the town and the committee. Everything from reviewing existing plans and data to an inventory of all your existing facilities. We evaluated environmental constraints. We did an ADA accessibility evaluation, just to get an idea of where you are right now in terms of your facilities. We also held multiple Parks and Trails committee meetings, and we had monthly coordination calls with Pat and CJ to keep things on target. We also had a public engagement approach and a series of engagement activities that I'm going to walk through with you in just a moment. And then we took a look at all of that information, compiled it together, and identified needs right now and potential trends to address for the community moving forward. We had actually 2 public workshops, and then this all got combined and compiled into your draft master plan for parks, recreation, and trails. And included within that draft master plan is also a capital improvement implementation strategy. So as a result of this effort, the concept plans that I'm going to share with you today, our team developed high-level cost estimates for those priority improvements to allow the town to move forward to seek funding opportunities. All right, some highlights in terms of the public engagement. So this was primarily virtual engagement throughout the duration of this, out of necessity, given the times that we were moving forward with this. But we did have an online community survey that garnered over 400 responses, which was really valuable to us. We had key stakeholder interviews, groups, topic-based groups that we got together to have conversations with. We had 2 virtual public workshops. The first public workshop actually had virtual breakout rooms, so we were able to mimic kind of small table discussions within the virtual breakout rooms and got an amazing amount of input. We had a project website that is still live, lansingparksandtrailsplan.com. And I do want to point out the concept plans that I'm walking through with you today are available on the website as well. There's a tab for the concept plans. And then we did have some in person. We were able to hold a pop-up table in June at the ball fields. I was able to spend a day there. It was the weekend that the car show was going on. There was a chicken barbecue. It was actually really wonderful to be able to be there and participate in the community events. So all of that, our existing conditions evaluation, our review of previous planning documents, the public input, all led to the development of park concept plans. And so we developed concept plans for the ball fields, Ludlowville Park, Myers Park, Salt Point, the Lansing Center Trail, and the barn fields. And so what I'm going to talk through with you today, for each of these concept plans, just some key design principles, site info, the draft concept plan, and some of the results that we got from asking the public what they think of these concept plans to know if we were on target or not. And I do see some faces that I'm sure were part of the second public meeting where we did introduce this. So this might look a little repetitive to you. So for that, I ask for your patience. But let's start with the ball field. So let me get my cursor here. So the key design principles for the ball fields are really to, look at the parking, identify ways to improve or expand the parking, and look at the pedestrian circulation within the park, and look at potential connections, not only to the spaces of the activity centers within the park, but outside of the park and key destinations. So here's what we have in terms of the concept plan. And so I'm just going to highlight some of the things, but one of the key things that you can see, if you follow my cursor, is this perimeter trail, kind of all along, connecting here all along, or all around the ball fields. The concept of additional parking, so expanding and formalizing some of the parking area here, looking at expanding parking to the south of the ball fields as well. Looking at connections kind of beyond, longer term connections, beyond the park. And really just formalizing some of this space a little bit with the playground, etc. When we asked the public what they thought of this, and I'm not going to have you do the poll everywhere. Oh goodness, it stopped. I wanted just to see the reaction, so this is not working because I'm live. So that did not work out so well. Sorry about that. But when we did ask the public what they thought of this plan, Overwhelmingly, there was a positive response to this plan. And in fact, I do have the results of that. So 64% liked it and 36% loved it. So we had a pretty good response to this concept plan for the ball field.
Jackie, are you still taking comments for these different concepts?
Well, the concepts are pretty much set at this point in time, but if you do have comments, we certainly can hear them and go back to the town. We have developed cost estimates for these concepts already and kind of advanced those at that point in time. But there are, we're in the draft stage of the master plan. So if there are things that we can incorporate into the text of the master plan, we can certainly try to do so.
Okay.
Jackie, are you planning to do lighting plans, or do you think those come farther down the line?
So that's a great question. So these are higher level concept plans, like identifying the key elements for that. But if lighting is something that is important, it's not something that we focused on as part of the high level concept plans, but certainly something we can add in from a safety perspective, that sort of thing. We can certainly add that into the text of the master plan.
Okay.
Other comments, thoughts on? Like I said, I'm going through quickly. I know you guys have
That's
other
fine.
items
That's good.
today.
That's good.
Okay.
I do have a quick question. What's considered the main entrance to the ball fields? Where that parking area is, or up by the town hall?
So there are multiple entrances, and that is one thing that wasn't specifically articulated as a main entrance, because it really does depend what you are there for, right? So there's the entrance, up here by town hall. There's the entrance over here where you can access, if you're trying to access some of these ball fields down here, this might be your main entrance. The key with the design here was to make it accessible for pedestrians, no matter where you were entering from the park, to be able to very clearly and have a formal path to get, perhaps this was the only parking that you could find when there were, games occurring at all the ball fields, and you needed to get to this ball field. So you can now safely walk here and know that this, this is a formal path. Same thing, if you parked on the street here, this is the only parking and you needed to get here. This now allows you, without having to walk on the street, to safely get to the field that you need to get to.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, and bear with me, we didn't turn off the actual poll everywhere, so I could have gone through that exercise with you. Okay. Other questions on the ball field?
Mine kind of follows along with Dean's question about the lighting. I think that with the expansion of parking areas, particularly back off the road, and with the trails spread out where they are, the concept is excellent. My concern is safety. Mm-hmm. Safety from a standpoint of, well, to be perfectly frank, the Lansing I live in now is not the Lansing that I grew up in. The United States I live in now is not the United States that I grew up in. Where this would have been a complete safe area 40 years ago, even 30 years ago, that's not so much going to be the case today. So I am concerned. I agree with Dean about getting lighting in there. And I'm also concerned about having the place patrolled regularly to make sure that things are done so that the town has at least done its due diligence with regard to life safety for the residents and the users.
Okay.
Jackie, one other thing that I noticed at the northeast corner, there's currently a crosswalk there, and it doesn't look like that crosswalk is incorporated into the trail system. So coming across the street from the north.
Sure, sure. Okay.
You develop a lot of parks. Is this adequate parking considering grandparents come and watch their kids?
So yes, so we have total now there are 144 parking stalls that are integrated in here. So these numbers that you see here, so there are 29 parking stalls here, 35 here, 16 here, and 29 that could be parallel parked here.
Okay.
To your point, one of the things that we talked with the committee about is adding kind of an overflow lot down here to the south. Now, this is not town-owned property, but the concept of coordinating with the neighbor here to the south to allow for some additional parking areas. And to your point, one of the key things that we had in mind with all of the park improvements was trying to make these accessible. For folks, whether they're, pushing a stroller or whether they, have other mobility issues. So making sure by having some of these more formalized pedestrian paths to make sure that these places are as accessible as possible.
I was looking at it, Lynn, from a standpoint, the current inventory shows 102 parking spaces and the projected inventory shows 129. And I'm making the assumption, does that 129 include the 35 in your proposed overflow spot?
Yeah, so there's a total number of proposed parking spaces as a result of this concept plan is 144.
Including the overflow.
Yep, it's including all that you see here proposed. Yep.
And there's actually more when you count in the stuff around town hall that she isn't counting in her parking inventory.
Okay.
Right, we did not count that. That's
The property that you were referring to from the south, is that owned by Woods Edge?
That's the facility down here. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Has any approach been made to them about sharing that property?
I would have to defer to CJ to see what if any has happened with regard to conversations with them.
That's a good question. That would be for Pat. Oh, sorry.
Without them being on board, we shouldn't even be counting those 35 spaces.
Well,
We
I
shouldn't
think
even talk about stealing them yet.
well, one of the things with, at this level of concept planning for an overall master plan is to really be aspirational and to say, hey, here's what could be possible to meet the future needs of the community. And so, this could open up the conversation to be able to have a shared parking situation there.
Okay, my point is they should be approached and the sooner the better, because traditionally they have been somewhat jealous of their prerogatives with regard to any disturbance or implied disturbance to their peace and quiet in that area. And they were among some of the early detractors about the ball fields being there anyway, and also by the complete development of the road all the way around. So unless you bring them on board now and get them on your side, you're going to have a tough road to hoe later.
And that's a very good point. That is something that it would have to come from the town in terms of what their desire is for this. I do know that this is something that we worked with the committee on, and they felt that it needed to be included in the concept plan, and the public was supportive of this. So that's how we've ended up where we are here.
The public support, maybe none of it came from the people who actually own that property.
And I can't speak to that. I don't know what conversations have happened with the town. And I do appreciate your comments with regard to this, but I also recognize that we have multiple other parks to get through and the master plan to get through. And so I would like to keep moving
Sure.
if at all possible.
Let me just tag on to that and say maybe it's worth putting a footnote on that property saying it's not town property, just to make it
Sure.
clear that it's proposed on somebody else's property. That would just, be an L here on the side.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Might be nice to touch base with them and say hi, and we're thinking about it, so they don't find out about it from some cousin somewhere else.
Or in a news article about tonight's meeting.
Sure.
Yeah, just to
Jackie,
jump
I
in
think
here, Pat.
Jackie, I think all the planning board members have great comments. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time because we have
I
all
know.
the 4 or 5 concept plans. It's unfortunate that we weren't able to spend more time with these concept plans and getting some feedback from the board members, because I think they are good comments.
Yes, and we do appreciate those, and I will say that the concept plans have been available on the website since our second public meeting, and so they are still available on the website. So if you want to take a look at them, they have been posted since June of 2021. But if you want to take another look at them, we'll send you this PowerPoint. If you want to provide us with comments back, we can then digest them and compile them and talk with the town and the committee about what changes they want to have made with regard to this.
So real quickly, board members, what do you have any feedback on providing Jackie and or the town with some more detailed comments on each one of these concept plans?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I don't live in the realm of the town hall. And literally, this is the first I heard about it, but I realize I live under a rock.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dean.
I was just gonna say me too, but I don't think it's gonna take us each too long to, forward on some comments.
Yeah.
Individually.
Good idea.
Okay, well, we don't have too much time, so let's work with the other parks and just go over the concept real quickly. Sorry, Jackie, there's not a lot of time today. I apologize.
Okay, nope, that's fine. So the other option is, because the concepts are all available online and we can share them, share this PowerPoint with you, perhaps we can jump into what is included in the draft master plan, so that you have an idea of how we get from these concepts into shaping what is in the master plan. So I'd love to be able to try and touch on that too. But
Sure. And then can you just bring up each plan real quickly, just for a minute or two?
Yes.
Is that possible?
So-
Do we have time?
So here's Ludlowville Park. So the key design principles here for Ludlowville Park were to add parking, add restrooms, create safer access to the falls, including an overlook. So here's some of the expanded parking, the restroom, also a perimeter path here, access to the falls, and ultimately maintaining that quiet character, because this does truly serve as a neighborhood park.
Okay.
So that's what's identified here. Myers Park, obviously your flagship. So this had this most significant amount of proposed improvements here, but focused on design principles related to parking, pulling that parking away from the lake, because it really was blocking access, not only from a visual, but physical access to the lake, which is such an amazing resource. Enhanced pedestrian circulation, restrooms, and creating more defined spaces. So you'll see the parking got shifted over here. There's 193 parking stalls in this concept, with 75 boat trailer stalls. The RV campsites remain here. There's the addition of 5 additional campsites, tent campsites. Turning what was the roadway into more of a pedestrian access, improvements to some of the facilities here, including the bathrooms, creating kind of a nice little promenade along the waterfront here. So those are some of the key elements here.
These 2 brown structures by the boat slips, what are those? I didn't pick that up. the boat slips here, the
Down
marina,
here.
the boat slips, yeah. There's a brown structure in the corner. And the other brown structure, what are those?
So those are part of the promenade. So artwork or some creative visual aspect of this promenade to really turn this into, an area. So here are some of the things that were, some conceptual elements along the promenade. So it could be trellis swings or creative seating along the promenade.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks for showing that pavilion cart. I think that's important as parking is moved away from the pavilion. That's a great part of the concept.
Yeah, the whole idea is wanting to keep it convenient for people, but still not, giving up some of the most valuable space in your park to parking vehicles.
Yeah.
All right, so here we have Salt Point. The idea here, and I use the term preserve lightly, Deborah, but to maintain that, that character that exists within Salt Point, but also try to maintain lake access and viewing points, and then to define the parking a little bit more clearly. So the idea here, this parking exists, but create a little more formalized path for the fishing area here. And then adding additional parking here, but allowing for folks to offload, whether it's kayak or other type of boat there, and then connecting with the existing pathway, and identifying here that these Ds here identify maybe some additional access points along the waterfront area. Okay, Lansing Center Trail, pretty straightforward here, focus on parking, more formalized parking, restrooms, and interpretive signage. So this is the existing parking area, just kind of defining that more, adding restrooms, adding a kiosk. The interpretive signage here was really to help inform people about, the resources that exist along here, from a birding and a natural habitat perspective. So to utilize that interpretive signage as an educational opportunity along the trail.
Okay.
Okay. The barn field, some of the design principles here are really focused on parking, restrooms, pedestrian safety. There's really no formal space for the pedestrians to be other than on the road right now. Opportunities to use this as more flex space as an open field. Adding some protective fencing and additional recreational amenities. So what we're proposing here, utilizing the shared parking area here, defining it a little more, having a crosswalk, creating a pedestrian pathway along the edge, adding some trees for shade for those that might be, watching, the kids on the field, creating a playground area, pavilion, and some picnic table areas here. So it can be more than just, a space utilized for active recreation, and really enhancing that area there. Also identified here are some drainage improvements that we understand are necessary as part of the field improvements.
Okay.
And so those are the concept plans. And so, like I said, I can share this with you, and also share the link to where they can be found on the website. And then just very, very quickly in terms of the draft master plan. So the committee is currently reviewing the draft master plan document itself. And we were hoping to have that be finalized very soon, but I'll need to coordinate with Pat and CJ about the timing of that now, given that the planning board is looking to provide some additional comments on the concept plans. But ultimately, this is the roadmap for what future improvements and investments should be made within your Parks, Recreation, and Trails system. And so there are 6 sections within the master plan itself. So if you see my cursor here, so there's an executive summary, there's an introduction, there's a section that talks about the benefits and need for recreation and parks planning. There's a discussion about the regional context, recognizing that while the town has its own park system, there are recreational opportunities within the town that are more focused on regional connections. And then we focus in on the existing conditions, which are the Lansing Park System Today section. And then these concept plans, as well as with the cost estimates for improvements and the implementation piece, which is what we're calling the Lansing Park System Tomorrow. So those are the sections. And I'll quickly I'll skip through all of this, but one of the things that I do want to focus in on is the park system tomorrow. So this does include those concept plans and the capital improvement strategy with the cost estimates associated with the concepts that have been prepared. And I do want to point out that the town has been successful in utilizing the concept plan for Myers Park and the cost estimates that we prepared through this process and securing a grant for some of the initial improvements to Myers Park, which is really exciting when the concepts are being implemented as we're finalizing the overall process. And one other thing I want to point out is that there's a Lansing connected portion within that section 6 that looks at those trail connections. And so we are working with the committee to finalize this, but there are what we're calling broader community connections, right? So key destinations and connecting those key destinations, whether it's Myers Park to the school to town hall. And then we have smaller neighborhood connections. So some of these connections down closer to the village. And so identifying those connections, we're working with the committee now to identify key nodes to be connecting through this connections concept plan. So that's what I have. I know that was really short and we kind of got off track a little bit, focused on just the ball fields, but we do appreciate those comments. And, CJ, if I could ask if the planning board does want to provide additional comment, we can send them the links to the concept plans. And certainly, if there's a time frame within which we could expect to get those comments back from the planning board, then we can, CJ, perhaps regroup in terms of how those get integrated into where we are in the process right now.
So Jackie, a quick question. The last document that you just showed that had the 6 different points, where is that on the Parks, Recreation and Trails Master Plan website?
It doesn't exist on the website yet because it's still going through review by the committee and the town.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I think that's important to bring out. As an example, we're going to, after this presentation, we're going to be meeting with the convenience store. And, sidewalks along the road that would connect Town Hall with Myers Park, you've got to start somewhere. So, that Dandy Mart and the sidewalks in your concept plan of connecting the ball fields with Myers Park, with Ludlowville Park, all should be integrated. So, that's got to come out or be approved by the town board, I think, so that the planning board can keep that in the back of their mind as we work with different projects. Larry?
Just one general comment, Al. I looked at the plans. I like them. They're very well done. They appear to have things that we need. However, it's a pretty big, pretty expensive bite. I'd like to point out one thing that might be worth thinking about. Is the reason that the town park situation in Lansing is so successful is that everybody in town feels that they're involved as an owner. The main reason for this is 2 generations ago, when this was all started, everything was done by volunteer effort between the Lions Club, individual neighborhoods, the fire departments, the town highway department. The park system as it is now was totally built by local people, local design, and basically on a shoestring. Most of the stuff that was done, except for maintenance, didn't cost the town a penny, except for the highway department's work and actually doing the original site work on at Myers Park.
Right, I agree.
One of the reasons, as I say, the whole thing is so successful is that everybody in town feels pride of ownership towards this. And I think that some vehicle has to be left in this plan for volunteer involvement.
Mhm.
Yeah, you saw it with the dugout over at the ball fields. I think there was a lot of community action in the Baker Pavilion. I worked on those pavilions at Myers Park when my dad was in the Lions Club when I was growing up.
Did you? Good. Wow. Okay, so quickly, let's set it, if any of the board members want to make a comment or recommend that something be added or something be revised, Jackie, they should send it where? How's it get to you? And what kind of time frame?
Yeah, you can email it directly to me. That's completely
Okay.
fine. Or if you want to send it to CJ and she'll get it to me, whatever works best for you. And from a time frame, I would say sooner than later.
So
because we are trying to
within a week?
wrap this up. That would be great. Yeah,
All
that
right,
would be
so
really
within
great.
a week, if any of the board members have comments, concerns, please send them on to Jackie and you'll get us your email address.
Yes, I will coordinate with CJ to get everybody's contact information, and I'll send you a link to the concepts as well as with my email address as well.
Jackie,
Okay.
can you send us a copy of that last document, even though it's a draft?
I would defer to CJ. CJ, if you think that's ready to go out yet, or
So I sent along earlier today. Did you all receive the 2 links?
Yep.
One was to the parksandtrailsplan.com to the master plan website that Jackie mentioned. And then also there's a link to the concepts as well.
Okay.
So I would say,
okay.
Yep. And so what I would say is if there's comments, please send them to me and copy Deb Trumbull. She's our liaison
Okay.
to
Great.
the Parks,
Thank you.
Recreation and Trails Advisory Committee. And so that'll help us get those comments over to them.
CJ,
Great. Thank you,
Yeah.
CJ. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
CJ, I
Larry?
opened that document and the master plan isn't there. It says to be completed or it's in the future.
Yeah, so they are getting ready to review that next Tuesday, the 22nd. So I don't yet have comments back from the committee yet, the Parks, Recreation, Trails Advisory Committee themselves yet. So, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't circulate it and get comments going. But I would have to ask Pat, and he's not here. So let me talk with him tomorrow.
Okay. Board members, any other questions, concerns, interest? Anyone? Okay, I think, thank you for taking your time, Jackie.
Yeah.
And board members, again, if you have concerns, please forward those on. Take a few minutes, look over each plan, and if you think it's good, even give them a positive shout as well.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Mhm.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
I know you have other items on your agenda this evening, but thank you for taking the time to hear the highlights.
Okay, thank you for the presentation.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, I guess next up is going to be the convenience store. Are they out there, CJ?
Yeah, they're in the waiting room. So I can admit them, or if you'd like to.
Just a comment. I'd like to dwell on the three main points, which is the ingress, egress, and the traffic plan on the site, the architectural detail, compatibility with the neighborhood, and what was the other one I wanted to, and site orientation, where are the buildings, where are the gas pumps going to be? Let's work on that today. And then the details such as signage or landscaping or sidewalks can come at a later date. So let's kind of get the concept down today if we could. I mean, I'm guilty as well as about bringing up things that are, there should be later on in the plan. Everyone okay with that idea?
Great idea. I have a quick comment myself, Al.
Okay.
I did a little research and I did a little traveling today, and I counted 9 Dandy Marts within 50 miles easily that have peaked roofs.
Oh,
Every
really?
dandy mart I found, yes. Two of them were brand new built, and some of them were buildings that they had taken over from everybody else. But there's no question that their identity isn't tied to a flat roof building with red outlines.
Where were the two new ones? Do you recall?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, let me see. Big Flats and East Church Street in Elmira.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And the other thing I did notice, and the research didn't help me on the internet, they all seem to have those flat canopies, although there are, as we've seen from the information that John gave us, peak canopies, canopy designs out there. And I even noted a couple that were kind of truncated. They were more or less Second Empire, but they weren't that square, flat brick.
Yeah, I've seen some where the middle section is peaked and then it's flat and then peaks. So there are different concepts as far as the roof and the slope and the orientation. But
yeah,
we can talk about that.
And if you
Joe,
recall,
you had a question? I'm sorry, Larry, are you done?
well, the other thing I was going to say was, if the comment is I've got to have a flat roof for the air handling units. The ones that I am speaking of, the air handling units were mounted on the back of the outside wall. And I would remind everybody that the little office park on Triphammer Road, the front has a gable roof visible from the road, but the back is a cutaway truss and the air handling units are completely hidden under the roof line of the new truss. So there are ways to handle that.
Okay.
And still give us the gabled look.
Okay. Joe, you had a concern?
Yeah, I would just add the entryway across from Rogues Harbor, I think, is over a current drainage ditch. And I think you guys need to think about how that drainage ditch is going to get moved or dealt with as part of this general site
Good.
plan.
Good. Anyone else before we bring them in?
Yeah, Al, I had several what I think are corrections to the application. It's like a 13-page, right, application. Should I just send those to everybody by email?
What do you think, CJ? CJ?
Yes, I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. You mean that concept plan so far?
Or maybe it was the long environmental form. Well, it wasn't a long environmental form, was it? It was the 13-page that they submitted. I think their original application for site plan review.
Yeah, if there's comments, definitely, and changes to suggest, certainly send them to John.
So, I mean, for instance, one of them was, let's see, it was on page 2 under C2A, and they said that there wasn't really anything in the town in terms of a comp plan that affected this. Well, I found, at least 3 places in the comp plan that kind of directly talks about this is a major road convergence area, et cetera, and what goals we have for this area, because they acted like they were a little flabbergasted or taken aback by our comments. And I think it's fairly well spelled out in the comp plan what we think about the gateway to our town.
Okay, all right. Dean, why don't you forward that to John and the rest of us, and we can look it over for the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, if you send it to P board, it'll go to everyone it needs to go
Okay.
to. We've updated the list now, so that's good to
Okay,
go.
great. All right, I think, CJ, why don't you allow them in and we'll see what they have to say about the new plan.
Sounds good. I don't know that they're expecting to be on until 7:30, so.
What do we got?
Ready whenever you guys are.
I was
Oh,
looking
well,
at
there-
that
I spoke too
canopy
soon.
that CJ sent. And that has a similar truncated Second Empire rim that I was talking about. And it certainly is a lot better than that flat slab.
Yes.
Second Empire.
Yeah.
So are you ready for us or?
Oh, yes, yes, Jamie, yes, we're ready. You
Okay.
wanna,
So, am I allowed to share?
if you would, please.
Yep. Very good. Is that working for everyone?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so what you got in front of you is our latest rendition. Let me just close that. Make sure I get rid of this YouTube channel. Sorry. So
Can you
what
zoom
have
it in a little bit? Can you zoom it in a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So we did get commentary from DOT in the meantime as well. So they've actually stated that the two preferred locations are obviously we're not going to get a third driveway, so we took that out. So what we did is we went by where they said to place the driveways, which is exactly where we had them before, the two most distant from the intersection. So that kind of informed us on how to proceed on the rest. So to also maintain the front visual of the intersection being our front door, you know, this is a corner lot, so it gets a little more complicated. We broke the canopy up into two and relocated them on the sides. Now the diesel island is in the same place that it's always been. The drive-through is still working on the back side. And we expanded the outdoor seating area out to the front. We'll call it the front, but it's towards the corner, the northeast corner of the site. And then we also expanded the landscape area to the corner, and that is, just to make sure I got that, it's roughly 2/10 of an acre out of the site. It's around 8,000 square feet in this area. As you guys were mentioning before, the big thing is to get the orientation. I don't know why that just disappeared, but to get the orientation down for the building, get the layout for the building, but then we'll come back and populate a landscaping plan and screening plan.
Jamie, back to that site plan.
Yep.
On the corner there, the lot drops off quite a bit. So where the old convenience store used to be is at a higher elevation, I believe, than where the new store is proposed. How is that going to lay? Is that just going to be a gentle slope? Will it be a retaining wall, or will the proposed store be built up?
I think we're going to try to build, the grading plan will get revised now that the grading plan we had when we had a driveway in the center of the site required us to bring it up higher. Now we have to look to see how this is going to lay out. We'll really get into the grading, once we get locked down on the actual site, but the layout. But one of the things that we're thinking is that we are going to build up the site, and a portion of that, that's another reason why we're looking at doing the storm chambers instead of traditional detention or retention pond. Is if you're going to fill in the site a bit anyways, why not use that for your green infrastructure? You use the stormwater chambers as your fill. So that back end here, like you said, this is a good amount of fill if we're bringing it up. We will need to bring it up. What we'll do is match the elevation at this drive on East Shore Drive as our finished floor, or roughly plus or minus a foot or so.
And how is that elevation compared to the intersection Is that about the same or does it
I
go
think
up?
I think it's about 2 or 3 feet lower. I can
Okay,
check real quick.
I have a
Um,
question.
sure, go ahead.
Did the DOT say anything about turn lanes in that corner at all?
We actually brought it up and they're gonna look into it. The problem you got is geometry wise, it's gonna get a little tight to see. I started actually playing around with it myself to see if there's a way to restripe it. They only have so much right of way. Their right of way ends right about here. So there's really not enough room to add an appropriate curve, to add a lane and a curve without some big discussions on property acquisition. One of the things I did want them to look at is the potential of restriping this area so we can work with what's out there, potentially reducing the shoulder and creating a turn lane there. The one thing they worry about with that is just this left turn motion that you're going to get some conflict there. So we brought it up to them. We'll continue talking to them, but that's something to, if you ever worked with DOT on stuff like that, it takes a while. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes some longer than what we need to do from an approval point of view. But we will.
When you're,
continue to discuss
Jamie,
it.
when you were saying you needed extra acreage or depth or footage there, are you talking like 2 or 3 feet, or are you talking 6 feet or 8 feet? What do you think on that?
It depends what they would require, but if you're trying to mimic the existing shoulder width, you're pretty much talking about another 8 feet interior into the site.
But with a turning lane, you don't need that existing shoulder width, do you? That wide width that's there now?
That would be my argument, yeah. But DOT has their own determinations there.
Okay.
But if you notice, like you notice the width of the shoulder here versus the width of the shoulder here, it's about the same. But like you said, over here, people, well, that's shoulder. I guess that I've always treated that as a right turn lane. Maybe I'm wrong, but
No,
Yeah, it's illegal. It's a solid white line.
yeah.
I shouldn't have said that, huh?
But there's a sign there now that says, "Don't do this."
Oh, really?
There is. I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Given
the
the
curb.
normal condition in a municipal area, in a built-up municipal area, if there were a granite or concrete curb in place, I don't see a need for a shoulder on the turn lane approaching from the west.
Yeah.
Was a proposal made to them of providing a curb to?
We haven't made any proposals to them. We don't have any indication the project's moving forward yet. So we just have done the initial application to say, okay, this is the scale of the project. This is our proximity of the driveways now. And then, so they've actually looked at the scale of the project and said, okay, that's great. This is where you're going to be looking at the driveway locations. Here are the dimensions that are given to us. And then we go from there. The actual intersection, work within the intersection, we cannot do that. They would actually have to incorporate that because there's no requirement from this size of a project to do any improvements to the intersection. The intersection is a signalized intersection that operates efficiently in their mind. Might not be in your mind, but in their mind, it's got an acceptable level of service. So to request additional improvements to that intersection, that takes a lot more. We'd have to go in as a combined applicant, the town and Dandy, to actually approach them on that.
Okay.
So I think that's a separate conversation to be had. Let's put it that way.
So Jamie, there's concrete curbing the state put in maybe a year ago or so on that corner.
Yeah, just
is
right
that
there.
what you're looking at as being the existing line that you would use that's there now?
Correct. We would not, under this approach with DOT, they're only having us look at I apologize, this is going a little slow. They're only having us look at within the radii of each of the driveways. So you got here to here, which is a 36-foot drive, as well as on East Shore Drive.
So would you be extending that curbing in each direction, south and west, as part of this plan? Or would the DOT do that?
I don't think
Or
it's,
would there be any?
I don't, they haven't stated that would be required. Typically, I guess we'd have to look into why they required it for the intersection, other than they probably just put it there to make sure people didn't cut the corner. And get
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm guessing you're right in that situation.
Because I don't, this type of road, you typically do not put curbing on. It's actually a danger to the public, traveling public in their mind. They would rather the wide shoulder.
Okay.
Your exit off of East Shore Drive, there's a house right across the street from there. How are you gonna mitigate the impact of having a exit right across from somebody's house? In terms of like headlights shining in their house every time somebody turns?
I don't know what you would actually do for that, other than if they, yeah, it's pretty much the position of the drive is being dictated by what DOT wants. Now, if we need to move it, and actually, I'm just kind of looking.
Now, Joe mentioned that there's a culvert there or a creek there at that drive existing.
There is a creek there of sorts.
Yeah, we would be able to handle from the drainage point of view.
Okay.
But that's, like I said, we haven't gotten in. We kind of went back to scratch to make sure we got the layout right. Once we get the layout right, then we'll go into that exercise of grading. Grading design is takes longer for us to actually do than the pretty picture you see in front of you. But we would need to go through and make sure that we're not impacting our neighbors, obviously. More than likely, the way we would design this is that any stormwater that's captured in this green area here between our two drives would be captured into our stormwater plan. So we would take on more, even though it's not required to, we would take on the stormwater from the road and take care of that, because no matter what you say to someone, if you put a culvert pipe through here and there's water flowing through there, it's all of a sudden our problem. And even though it's probably there already because of the road, we would take care of that and use our storm system. Our storm system's oversized. Initially, we've actually got we kept the original design on the books right now. Our lot coverage rate is actually reduced based on this layout. So we've actually reduced the amount of square footage of impervious going into the system.
On this layout, Jamie, where are the electric charging stations?
So on this one, and I guess I better double check with Dwayne. I was thinking they would be in this area here. Dwayne, are you still there?
Yeah, I did. Honestly, I haven't thought on this one where we would relocate them, whether they would stay in the area of the building where we had shown them before, which would be right where Jeremy is now.
Yep.
Or if we may relocate them off in more of a standalone area.
Okay.
They will be on there though.
Yeah.
That's
so while we got this layout, let's say we're okay with this. You've got the gas island to the northwest. There would be an entrance door, those double doors. Is that what they would use to come into the store?
No, the entrance, what we're proposing with the layout that we're working on here actually has 3 entrances.
Okay,
So the building that we're working on and the design that we're looking with, we're going to try to make it look as though it has 3 front entrances. So the single door towards the fuel islands,
okay,
on the northwest side would be the entrance. Your
okay,
single door, which in our latest rendition is actually a double door that faces the intersection, and then double doors that face East Shore Drive.
okay. So the islands, the gas islands, the flow of the pedestrian traffic from the islands to the store, if they left their cars in the island, would use those side doors, and then the seating area would use the door to the northeast, so to speak, I guess. Is that the
Correct.
idea?
Yeah, we're trying to create a store that's, again, we're in the convenience business. We're trying to create a model with this design where the person, if they're looking for fuel, it's easy to get into. But
Okay,
whichever fueling location you're at, you also have easy access to either pull ahead and park or just come inside the store through an entrance.
okay,
And from your seat, looking at it, I hope you can appreciate the fact that we're trying to create the look of 3 entrances.
okay,
Because a lot of traditional buildings, you have 1 entrance, so you have one side of 4 that look great, and then you have 3 other sides that are quite plain typically.
okay.
So we're trying to create something that has curb appeal on all 4 sides.
So this was the initial layout that, or elevation. This is just the front elevation towards the intersection. And then we further refined, and I shouldn't say we, the architect, further refined the entrance as such. So you see that this is the entrance towards the northeast, towards the intersection. And then on either side, there are similar features. We don't have the full renderings yet. We wanted to get what we could in front of you.
Right.
This
Can
would
you
be
talk
your-
about the materials, the finish, the colors on that?
Yeah, so this would be a stone, about, I wouldn't call it knee wall, but about between 3 and 4 foot tall, cultured stone all the way around.
Okay,
And then brick.
that would just be a red brick on the,
Yeah, and the tones we can look at still. I mean, this is like Dwayne
But
said, this is your initial rendering.
right,
we-
but I
we
mean,
need to
it
see
would
what the
play,
materials are.
it would play off from the Rogues Harbor brick, so to
Yes.
speak.
Yeah, if you look at the, I have, well, I guess I lost that. Where'd it go? If you bring up, can you guys see that? That's Google. That's the brick that the Rogues Harbor has.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah, it'd be in the somewhere. We have to, get into different materials and samples to see how they all look. But
right, but I mean, that's that gist of it. It would more or less complement, not necessarily match identical, but it would
right,
complement and be in that same. And then the peaked area, that's just masonite siding that's painted
I'll let
above
Dwayne
around the
answer
dandy.
that. Dwayne, did you have
Yeah, it
material?
would be, I've got our team, working on materials to try to put together what a material board, what colors, what materials would look like to complete this look. It would probably be a combination of hardy boards or, there's some really good architectural products that give
Right.
you that, look that we're going for there with the dental work and
Okay.
those types of things that, again, as Jamie said, we're trying to play off some of those details that exist on the Harbor Hotel across the
Right.
street.
Good.
You know, as
And
you all
are these-
alluded to.
Are these windows, you know, translucent? Are they real windows or are they?
Most of our windows in our stores are real windows
Okay,
that let light in. The windows that are shown there in the front would actually be in the seating area that we've got created internally.
Okay.
Sometimes there's another rendition of this that didn't get done today in time to show you, but we put windows to the right of this entrance that would be frosted because they would be in an area where there's no reason to let the light in. We would want to hide the equipment and things in that area, but architecturally, they may add a nice element to the building.
right. And they would be like a divided pane as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, good, good. Good.
Dwayne, for the awnings, you looking at fabric awnings or metal?
We've used a combination of both in the past. I would prefer metal if we're able to get our source to produce them, you know, with this look.
Wayne,
Deborah,
hello?
hello.
Is there any way that instead of having the peaked roof up with the dandy up at the top, you could have it a bit lower that would better echo the kind of entrance to the Rogues Harbor Inn?
That's an architectural element we've got to work through. Part of the reason for the height there is dealing with the water runoff from that roof line and dropping it onto our lower roof in order to handle it. So, but again, these are the types of things that we very much, this is a concept. We haven't really started to work through those architectural type of engineering details yet.
Actually, Deb, oh, go ahead, Deb.
I think any of the details you can put in that will mimic Rogues Harbor would really improve the look.
But
including
actually,
color.
Deb, I think having that peak roof above that flat area breaks up that flat line. I think having that peak on the three sides makes it look less like a flat building, so to speak. I guess the eye, you know, it's the eyes of the beholder, so to speak, but. Any other board members have comments on this detail, on this?
The
Board members?
idea was brought up. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
To put a peaked roof on the building, and I don't think I've heard yet why not.
The reason we shied away from going back to that was in trying to create the three distinct entrances. You know,
Okay.
we could create the entrance and the look on, say, the side towards the intersection, but it's harder to get a similar look and feel on the gable ends. And I really believe that with this model, we're going to give you a much more appealing building than if we switch and put a gabled roof on it.
Yeah, so to Dwayne's point, it's kind of like this end of, I mean, granted that doesn't feel complete on the end here. Whereas this is your front door. You know, the Rogues Harbor is all focused to the east shore.
Right,
Dandy
right.
Mart.
right.
Now,
I know last time we were talking about the red and the yellow. So when I look at Rogues Harbor, right, I see that really, I don't know if you want to call it, I don't know what color green it is, army green, whatever.
red and green.
Say it again, Jamie.
It's more for screen. Yep.
Yeah. So
Obviously.
what can you do about that red?
Well,
Just
I'm
curious.
afraid
All the
there's
buildings-
nothing I can do about that red.
Yeah. That's their branding. But two, do you really want all the same color?
No, I mean, I look at that, like personally, red and yellow are not my favorite colors, right? When I look at that, I don't find that attractive.
You're talking to two guys that have businesses that red's their main color. So
I know. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, and it's being used as
red. Actually, I believe, depending on the color of brick that we pick, you're going to find that red with it is actually a really good accent color.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Maybe do you have like actual photos of true buildings? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Instead of your drawing. I
do not. We have never built a brick building.
Okay.
This will be our first.
I think it'd be easier to see if you had something true. I mean, I do like that you changed the light colors. That was better than previously submitted, but just curious about what you could offer.
So Jamie, that Wayne stone is going around the whole perimeter, all four sides, and the brick will be on all four sides.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And that view you just showed us, that's the view from East Shore Drive view.
Yes.
Not the intersection?
That's facing the intersection.
Okay, the intersection. Okay. Which would be the front, more or less the front of the store facing the landscape island.
Right.
Okay. Well, I think to me, that's a huge improvement over the first plan. I don't know how other board members.
Yeah.
Deb?
I was wondering if you have a drive-through and if you're continuing with that notion, is there a need that you follow the regulations on the number of parking places? I know the requirements would call for the size of the building, 25 parking places, but the drive-through seems to obviate the need for some of the parking places. Is there any data that indicate those 25 parking places are going to be necessary for a Dandy Mart that also has a drive-through?
I don't think that 25 is a high number. If anything, it's probably tends to be to the lower side of what we would typically have.
Do you have usage data?
Well, at any point in time, depending on the number of staff that are working, you may have 6 to 7 vehicles there that are staff out of those 25 parking places. So your places for customers to use are actually, more in the teens.
So Dwayne, is that typical that staff is going to park right up next to the building?
Unless we have a place where we can park staff in an outer area, which is something that we will certainly look at with our drawing. I would much prefer to put them out towards, an area, say where the dumpster is in that rear corner.
Right.
So that they don't utilize the spot. So every site's different in that regard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think the McDonald's that went in Dryden, as soon as it went in, they didn't have enough parking. There were people that the parking spots were full, but I mean, that's a little different.
And
Larry, you have a question?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about Lynn's comment and working on Dwayne's response, which is completely logical. I would like to ask, is there some reason that a gable roof structure could not be made with the gable running southeast to northwest? In other words, the gable ends would be pointing more or less at the old the building where the daycare is now, and then towards Rogues Harbor with a gable roof added on the front, pointing out towards the intersection, and that would be kind of like your some of your other structures in McLean or Mecklenburg. So you would have a gable at each of the three sides where you have an entrance, and you'd still have the gable roof.
I don't know
rather
if I have.
Rather than trying to. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I don't know if I have the dimensions to do that. You know, looking at Jamie's site plan, you know, when we spun this building the way we did and split the canopies apart, the dimensions are tight. I mean, we are at, several of the dimensions are at the minimum footage in order to allow customer access. And the other thing would be, it all depends what comes down to what the size would have to be.
My apologies, everyone. Our internet went out in our area, so I'm on my phone now. I apologize.
Okay.
I guess I'm not completely understanding because, you know, basically your entrances, the positioning of the building and the entrances could stay just as you wanted them, except the ends of the building would be gabled, and then you'd have a gable at 90 degrees to the spine of the roof for the entrance towards the intersection.
I thought you were suggesting rotating the building from what I was hearing.
Not at all. Not at all. Because I did notice that, well, let me see whether it was, yeah, I think it was the Church Street, Elmira, where you have a short building and the gable roof runs parallel to a shorter side. Actually, the building looks like it's about a square building, but still has a gable roof with a gable running parallel to the street.
Mm-hmm.
Looked pretty nice, and that one just had a small gable over the front entry. But doing that with this, you could have a gable, the two main roof gables over the, call it east and west entries, and then you can have a side gable over the front entry, the entry facing the intersection. And basically you just have a T-shape like some of your other older existing units, like the one on Lake Ave in Burdette.
Are you saying they should be brick as well, Larry?
Well, the treatment they've given the exterior walls is perfect, no problem. And
okay.
from the bottom of the gable up to the peak of the gable, again, that could be done with the hardy plank, because that's the way the ends of the roof gables are finished at Rogues Harbor, with only that's wood. So there's no need to add on any side any further height to the brick. Using the modern construction materials like the hardy plank for the trim treatments at the ends of the gables, it wouldn't look out of place with anything in the area. So no worries there.
Well said, Larry. And it, yeah, really spruce up the area in terms of the overall view. I think that might really help.
I'm just going based on comments we've already had from the public and comments from the scenic
byway
committee and other agencies, county planning department, trying to fold that into something that might lead to a lesser amount of resistance. Although I know this is Lansing and I'm probably whistling in the wind, but
so let's start with the exterior that's been proposed today with the stone wainscoting and the brick that matches the Rogues Harbor. As far as that exterior finish, whether it's red or another color or it's metal, the awnings, that can be decided down the road. But the gist of it is the stone and the brick, the red brick, most board members find that acceptable. Is that true? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty appropriate. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we've got that more or less. That's a positive. So then the next step is you know, there's some discussion whether that peak should stay the same, should be come down, or the whole building should be peaked with a shed type roof. So that's where we're at right now with that concept. Dwayne or Jamie, is that a possibility to take a second look at the stores that Larry mentioned to see if it's feasible or not?
It's feasible. You can build anything, whether or not it's practical. I mean, my preference is to stay with the concept that we're showing and
Okay,
not go back to a full gabled building.
okay,
I mean, we've gone to this for many reasons. You know, a lot of them are operational. You know, they're reduced operating costs. You know, it's safer for our people to work on equipment because it's on the top. You know, there's a lot of reasons that we haven't built a gabled building since probably 2011 was the last one.
okay,
So my preference is to work this to a place that is acceptable and really is a showpiece for the town of Lansing and is that gateway that you're talking about.
okay. Well, while we're discussing this, let's touch base real quickly on the canopies. Now you're proposing a bit of a pitch roof on those?
Yeah, this is a canopy that I found. I haven't got all the specs on it yet. But it's a shingled canopy and the shingles, whatever we pick, would be in a color to match the gables on over the entrances.
Okay,
And the columns would be laid up probably with a stone that also tied back to the entrance on the building. If Jamie goes back to the building, if you remember, you'll see the elevations show the stone laid up.
right,
So those canopy columns would mimic that.
right.
And we would then, obviously, you're going to try to tie the two together. So it
Right.
makes, again, it's,
They did that at the bank, the recent bank construction on Trip Hammer Road. They put stone on their columns to match the bank, and it looks pretty attractive. Yes. So you wouldn't need you don't need any striping on that canopy or any signage on the canopy, correct?
yeah, I don't believe so. You know, again, I don't know what the specs are. I'm not even sure you could put signage on this canopy.
Well, I just think the community would appreciate a canopy such as the one that's in the picture right there, as
Yep.
opposed to something with striping or neon or
We wouldn't. This
Or red.
this canopy doesn't lend itself to that for sure.
right.
Yeah.
Who's up? Larry, you have a question?
Yeah, I think that looks great. The only question I would have is rather than something like shingles, which are rather high maintenance, what about some of the new stoned metal that looks like shingles that would reduce your maintenance of that roof? And the other thing I wanted to say is I don't think that it's inappropriate to have the metal awnings because again, they're gonna be a lower maintenance item than the fabric. And if the paint, you use a modern paint or an acrylic fluorocarbon, they aren't going to fade.
Right.
You know, all that sort of thing again lends to better maintenance.
But the idea, the concept of this type of pitch and the stone on the columns, board members find that acceptable or desirable?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Like to see it all the way through, actually, but after Dean, I'll go again.
Just a question on looking back at the elevation of the building. I'm assuming that the parapets are high enough that the equipment on the roof is all shaded from view, or?
That's correct. They would be.
Okay.
I would note that the top of the, for the board, that the top of the parapet does kind of mimic the fres board around the top of the Rogues Harbor.
Yes, I noticed that.
Might like
Yeah.
to see the dental up the gables as well.
Oh, yes.
We actually have a version of this that I didn't share with Jamie that has that.
Nice.
Our graphic designer has continued to try to evolve this drawing. And the one late today was quite good.
Yeah, where the windows are visible, you know, at the top of the stone there, you've got like a lintel cap. You might consider, you know, a little bit of a lintel over the windows too,
Mhm.
where they're visible.
Hmm.
And while I'm not crazy about the red and yellow, you can't mess with corporate identity too much. I mean, they've got to be allowed their, you know,
Yeah,
the
there
red
has
and yellow, that's corporate identity. You can't screw around with that.
right. There has to be a balance between the corporate needs and the community needs, and we have to balance, you know, where that comes into play.
Well, we wouldn't allow McDonald's to come in with yellow and red, would we?
Well, Sarah,
In old Forge for the Olympics, they wanted to put a McDonald's in, and it has little tiny 3-foot wide arches on it. You know, I mean,
They also have
little
very strict
rainbow.
arch-
So you
they
can
do have very
anything.
strict architectural standards, though. I
Yeah.
mean, that are built into the law.
One thing I would like to point out is the outdoor seating. It's a little exposed. And I realize there's parking there, but any idea of like a little parapet or wall, keep the napkins from flying off the table?
Certainly
Good one.
something we can look at.
So those dots are like, what do you call them? Bollards? Is that
Bollards.
Yeah.
So there will not be, you know, the whole intent is to have this all at grade, so there's no trip hazard all the way around.
yeah,
But so if you do that, you then need to do something to keep the cars from continuing on. And it's either that or wheel stops, and the bollards are the preferred treatment.
Okay.
bollards are a great idea. They work a lot better.
Yeah, the shortstop had a few cars in their front of their store. over
Yeah,
the years.
I've seen
Yeah.
it. I
What
parked in
post
there.
office?
What color will the bollards be?
Oh,
I'm
I don't
sure
know.
they'll be red.
Gray. They'll be gray. Alternate red and yellow.
Oh,
Gray I could live with.
No.
Now, Dean, don't pick on Sandy.
They're gonna kill
I would think a gray or a neutral color would
Yeah,
be.
gray would be good.
And the canopy for the diesel fuel would mimic the gasoline canopies?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
That would be very nice.
And you're going to refrain from like outdoor ATMs or ice machines, is that correct?
That's correct. The only
Okay.
thing typically we have outside are propane cylinders.
Right.
Okay.
Would those be next to the store, or are you gonna think about putting those out towards the back?
They would be next to the store because our employees have to access that for the customer. They're typically protected by several larger concrete ballards about where Jamie's mouse is. And somewhere in that area is probably where they would sit.
That's perfectly logical.
And that's about as hidden as you could be there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on the side away from the main exposures. Hidden from 34B by the pumps and whatever plantings are on that berm there.
Did we, I apologize, I was off for a little bit. Did we talk about what we want to see in this area, the landscape
No.
area? So, you know, we're looking at, you know, landscaping. We talked about a table, but that wouldn't make sense just from a safety and all that. So maybe a bench or two in this area. There's going to be some bike racks here. We think that's probably the logical place for that. But this will pretty much be landscaping. Dwayne, from a signage point of view, we wouldn't put any signage in that area, correct?
No, the signage would be out towards the entrances.
The drives, yeah. So that would be keeping this pretty clear. Now, keep in mind, there's some poles out in this area. That's why, I wanted to add that onto this drawing so you can see it. The fire hydrant's there as well.
Al, can I just jump in here for a second?
Yep, sure.
So the landscape picnic area here, would you consider something like a monument sign that could kind of act as a little bit of mass and buffer here that could allow for also essentially use of this space? I'm just thinking, like, I'm just concerned this has kind of become like a dead garbage corner, and unless we kind of incentivize maybe some way to kind of join I'm assuming that 35 foot there that you got there is a fire lane, or for fire code.
Yep.
Okay. So just considering, and you said all the entries are functional, right?
Yep.
To the building. Okay. I'm wondering if we can kind of consider something to kind of connect from a pedestrian perspective, that outdoor seating with the landscape picnic area as well. We're thinking maybe some kind of textured sidewalk, the kind of textured something there to really connect that outdoor seating with that landscape picnic area, and then maybe consider some kind of monument signage. I think John circulated something that was like maybe a Wawa or something like that had kind of the monument signs with a little bit of that massing there. I was thinking that could be a really cool way to it could be a really cool way to help people who did want to sit and enjoy that area to kind of feel safe, because that's one thing I hear some feedback from, that this corner, when you're sitting on this corner dining, that can be really loud. So it kind of could serve a double purpose. At least that's kind of an idea conceptually.
May I just add that the folks are talking about putting their signage down on the two entrances, which I like. I prefer not to have a sign in the corner, just like they had originally planned. But the same thing could be done by putting some hardscape in there. Say 2 or 3 boulders.
Low wall.
Something with some mass.
Boulders would require less maintenance. The low walls, then if you're building them out of brick, you're going to have problems with efflorescence, and they're going to look streaky when the calcium starts to build up. But
well, you're right on the boulders, those aren't going to require any maintenance.
Yeah.
How about off of the corner, because you're for your traffic? So if you look at that north corner there, where there's a little loop with some stripes off the corner of the seating area, outdoor seating area, just to the north corner.
Oh, this side.
Yeah, like from there, your foot traffic could go across to the northeast to the picnic area, for instance.
Typically, what I like to do is actually to go build off of the ADA aisle.
That's what I mean.
Well, I saw that too, but you got a bike rack right there. So
well, I can move that
pretty easy.
Yeah, I can slide that this way, to be honest.
There were comments about sidewalks between the road and the landscaping on the north and on the east. Is that items that the community / the planning board would like to see?
Well, I think the community would probably like to see it.
Yeah.
I personally, my feeling about things that require additional maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would think that one of the goals would be that any walking traffic from the ball fields or the neighborhood would be able to, cross at the intersection and then kind of walk through
right,
and across the area that he's showing right now in order to get to the store.
Right. I mean, I could see the B&B, the tenants or the residents or the occupants of the B&B wanting to walk across the street and go to the convenience store. So there should be some type of sidewalk that would connect the store with,
The corner.
either that intersection or something, I would think.
All right, you got me.
What's that?
Oh,
There is a logical need for sidewalks, both along the street and from the street to the front of the store.
Larry, I've almost hit, I can't tell you, countless people walking on the side of the road wearing all black at night with no reflectors and you're driving the rain and it's dark and you come upon a person and they're right on the edge of the road and you're like, oh my God, you're going to get killed. And I would like to do whatever we can to
I agree,
that.
but that's called Darwinian selection.
Oh,
It'd be okay if they didn't have a Labrador dog.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Well, we're getting into some more details, but Jamie and Dwayne, I think board members would like to see next time some idea on some sidewalks and landscaping around that area. Is that correct, board members?
Yeah.
Some proposals?
The trees across the street at Rogues Harbor Inn have held up really well, and they look pretty nice. I'm not sure what species they are. I talked to Dan Siegel about it, and he said he thought that they really held up well, and he could find out what the species are.
Yeah, we do have to keep in mind that they're going to be under the power lines on the other side, so we don't want something that's going to have to be chopped up in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do have, so keep in mind, we do have room this interior. We won't be able to put the trees and the overhead lines, but we could put a couple trees interior of that, away from the thing that I hate the most is when NYSEG comes in and chops the tree in half.
Right.
I think that makes it worse. So
Yeah.
Whatever we create, when we create this space, we want to plant species that we're gonna be able to maintain so that we can keep it looking representative, of what we and you all want. Is to have a great looking intersection.
NYSEG has varieties that live under power lines.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they're using hawthorns downtown. They have nice red berries and winter interest, and there are definitely things that can be done. Yep. In areas where there's not the power lines and areas where there are.
Yeah, we're not going to put huge oaks or maples in there, but
the thing to remember is to keep your line of sight at the corner free of too many plantings also.
Yep.
Yeah, CJ mentioned monument signs, and it would be nice to see monument type signs at the entrance down below.
Yeah, because there's no limit to visibility from the road. The place certainly wouldn't be hidden if you put the monument signs by the entrances.
They're just classier looking.
Yeah.
Now keep in mind, we do need to have the cost on these somehow. If we're taking the signage off the canopies, we need to have some sort of way to, otherwise people won't pull in. if they don't know what the price is, especially these days. We need to have some sort of, so we'll try to accommodate that best as we can, but we've taken the pricing off the build off the canopies. You know how you see those number signs?
Yeah. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
But could you put that, surround that with the brick or the stone again to make it compatible if it was detached?
Yeah, we've done signs like that. Again, it's just not an area that we've put any thought into yet. The last 10 days we've been working on building and site layout.
Right.
And now we'll start to go to work on some of those other details so we can present you a more comprehensive plan.
Right.
And a better rendering of what the site will look like.
Right.
I have a
Yeah, I would
question.
expect whatever we do for signs, we'll probably utilize the same brick and stone so that it all ties together.
Sandy,
I
you had a
do-
question?
Yeah,
Sandy?
on the driveway, East Shore Drive, is there a way to shift that driveway over just a little bit so the headlights wouldn't come right into that neighbor's house? Is there anything we can do to mitigate that a little bit for them?
We got a little bit of room. But see, there's that hydrant here too, though. That's the.
Oh,
That's,
Anybody turning to the south, the headlights are going to wash across the front of her house anyway.
no matter where you go.
yeah.
Dale, I haven't heard from you much.
Yeah, I just have one question. You know, one of the concerns I hear is increased truck traffic and stuff like that if a Dandy Mark is built. And I'm wondering, do we really need the diesel fuel island there and encouraging the truckers to come in there? We know we got Rabbit with all the diesel up there. Are you really tied to having more truck traffic in here?
Truck traffic, and again, we're not going to bring more traffic to the area. We're trying to do business with traffic that's already here.
But I
mean,
mean, if you
no-
put a fueling station in there, a diesel fueling station, you're certainly encouraging diesel trucks to come in there, right?
We are, because that's certainly a customer of ours, both for fuel as well as for food and offerings that we have inside of our store. So at the end of the day, it's a very important customer for us.
I think the point is it, Dale, that the trucks are already there on the road. They're not going to be bringing any new trucks in.
Yeah, this business is a pass-by business. That's from a traffic point of view. That, you know, they all like to think that they're a destination, but they're really not. It's convenience. That's the terminology.
Okay.
And I
Joe,
think
you have any comments out there? Joe? Joe still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you. It just takes a minute to unmute me.
Oh.
I'm really concerned about that neighbor who's going to get headlights 24/7 shining at her house. I mean, you're going to make that house really a hellish place to live. And I don't know how we can fix it, but I can't just say, oh, well, she's getting headlights shining in her house 24/7 from trucks and cars and stuff pulling through. I think that's a real issue that needs to be dealt with somehow.
Yeah, we should probably look at the elevations there. I think, doesn't that house sit up a bit?
Yep.
Breaks me, it does. And she's getting it from people coming down the road or whoever it is.
Yeah, but these are gonna go straight into her windows, right? It's aiming cars right at her house 24/7.
We'll make sure that I think I got a couple more feet this way that I can get it so that if a car's parked waiting to exit, that the light's not shining into the house. Let me see how I can deal with that.
And my other comment is just, rereading the comprehensive plan. This just doesn't seem to be fitting at all what the town discussed in its comprehensive plan. In the comprehensive plan, it was really talking about the building up in the corner. And I know you really like to have people driving all around your business, but it just doesn't seem to fit anything that was described in the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan talks about this corner pretty extensively. It's an important point. We used it as our example for form-based zoning. And this just isn't really coming close to what was envisioned.
Okay, CJ, you have any comments out there? Other comments?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the truck parking, I would definitely echo the concerns. We would like to see a swept path turn simulation as part of the submittals, of course, and I'll follow up with applicants about your contact with DOT, because we're definitely going to have to coordinate with DOT on this project.
Mm-hmm.
The town has undertaken, I assume that John has sent you the transportation study done for the town center area, as well as the Cuba Lake Scenic Byway plan and such. But I'm definitely concerned about that truck parking area and its adjacency to that play area that's about 10 feet away behind what I believe is likely to be a vinyl fence. So I would I would very strongly reconsider the diesel fuel island and the truck parking. It's the adjacency to that children's play area is certainly concerning. As for the building itself, if we could just also look, yeah, please. So that Pizza Cafe Deli sign area, we were wondering if you'd consider a similar fenestration treatment, the window treatment that you've chosen there to the south. Yeah, with some idea of just kind of continuing to activate that space so that the folks there kind of enjoying that area could actually see into the building. John kind of joked about the kid test, right? You're sitting there having a drink and your kid goes in to get a candy bar or something and you could still see them. So that could be a really, we're thinking, nice treatment, as well as just curious about that kind of orphaned awning over there to the north. I assume there's probably mechanicals or some kind of prep area behind there. But we do appreciate the articulation in the building and the treatments and the human scale materials. I'd like for the next meeting, which I'm anticipating in person, to see some material samples. If you would please bring those to the planning board. I have a feeling they would really enjoy kind of the tactile experience of handling those materials and really seeing that true the colors and textures as well. So the last question is really I have for planning board, which is do you think is most important to get some exterior photorealistic renderings of the building? I'm assuming applicants will probably come back with, some pretty detailed exterior elevations coming up, but I'm curious from your perspective. I'm assuming definitely Rogues Harbor, for the historic nature of this, but are there any other places you'd really like to see, some sims and, just photorealistic viewpoints of the building and the site itself from? That's, I think, sums up my comments in a nutshell. And yes, a signage package would be great to see along with the full application.
CJ, on those elevations, do you want to see the shrubbery and the tree line between the road? So you want to view it from the road, and then as if you're parked along the road or traveling along the road. So you're seeing the shrubbery, you're seeing the canopies, then you're seeing the store, or do you just want to see the view of each side of the store? You follow my
Yeah, so I'm assuming applicant, of course, will come with exterior elevations, of the buildings themselves. But what I'm thinking is more of the kind of the point of, the pedestrian or passing vehicle, what they're going to see from different viewpoints. That's more just like, if you stood in a specific spot, what would you see kind of deal? My understanding is, and I think, philosophically, we're kind of at this really interesting, excuse the jokes, but intersection, right, of deciding, to the extent to which this intersection is going to be pedestrian focused. So I think it really would be a helpful exercise to really understand what the building and the site is going to feel like from those perspectives, let's call it 6 feet off the ground, from a variety of at least a few perspectives. And planning board, CJ, like to hear from you.
If it helps, then I have, and I'm not sure, your next meeting and if I'll have this done and complete or not. But I have actually got a company working on, they're actually on hold at the moment, but they're going to work on a 3D modeling of the entire site for me, so that you'll be able to get exactly what you're describing from a pedestrian point of view, say at the intersection. What does that look? And you'll actually be able to navigate the entire property so that you can get a real look whichever direction you're facing. And these will be both daytime and nighttime.
Okay.
Will they be kind of an equivalent of what you would see driving along, up East Shore Drive and then turning the corner? So
yes,
it's
they
not
will.
just a pedestrian view.
Yeah. Yes, they actually will take elevations into play. of the site.
You know, back to what Joe made a comment on, and some of the community members, they wanted more of a building at that intersection. But I think if you incorporated sidewalks, some other decorative feature in that landscaping with the trees and the shrubberies, it's going to be more acceptable by the community, I think. But while pushing that store back away from the road.
It would be a good attempt at a compromise. I have a question for CJ, Al, if I could.
Yeah, please. Go ahead, Larry.
CJ, you, with regard to the break, the buffer, if you will, between this property and property to the west, I think earlier in the process, I suggested that something more substantial was going to be needed there. You know, a wooden fence rather than a vinyl woven through hurricane fence. Would a change in material, change in style of the fence and the height of the fence, do you think that would serve to make things a little bit better?
You know, that's a really good question. And I'd pick that to the applicants to kind of, you know, meditate on that massing that they think would really be appropriate there for that separation. And, you know, full disclosure, I'm coming from this with somebody with a Class A driver's license. So I am a little bit concerned with the backing essentially of, you know, 53 and 48-foot vehicles into that spot and the immediate adjacency to what my understanding is a children's playground. So just want folks to be very mindful of that. That's a pretty significant site condition and something to mitigate. So just bringing that up for applicants to consider.
Now, as I remember, there was a elevation difference of quite a few feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how that turns out too. It was about 8-foot elevation difference. It drops down there pretty good. So we would need to, you know, obviously, you know, when we're talking about the bollards out here around the building, you know, from a backing in or truck point of view, we would need something there to make sure that the vehicles don't keep rolling that direction. So yeah, we have to look at that a little bit more.
Yeah, I have some just concerns about the geometry and swept path through the site. So that's definitely something that we're going to want to see moving forward. And I'll follow up with applicants about the DOT contacts because we're going to obviously have to coordinate with them on this project.
Actually, what CJ, what we were going to do is carbon copy you on the last email thread. You and
perfect.
John.
Okay, great,
So.
marvelous. Okay, thank you.
Aaron or Deb or Sandy, I didn't hear too much from you guys. Any other comments from anyone else? Aaron? Deb?
I think
Andy?
everybody. Yeah, I really like CJ's comments. I'm especially curious about that front part. I think Sandy hit on it. Over the last 2 years from living in this area, there's definitely been an increased foot traffic. And so I'm curious to see what that front landscaped area looks like with the picnic area. So, and I also want to echo Dale. I don't feel that a diesel pump is necessary, but you know, I just have a lot of concerns. If I was a parent and my child was at that daycare, I don't know if I'd choose that daycare, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, looking at it from different angles. And I also agree with Joe. I don't think that, you know, when you're looking at the comp plan, that this necessarily fits in with that.
Sandy or Deb, anything else?
Yeah, I want to echo Dale's comments and Aaron's comments about the truck parking, whether it needs to be 6 trucks there and how would a truck likely use the area. And when I've walked the area, there may be a total of 8-foot difference from one end to the other of the property, but right next to the daycare center, it's pretty shallow.
Okay. Sandy, anything?
Yeah, I'd like to, I'm not happy with the trucks where they're located either. Yeah, and it would be, you know, how horrific it would be if something happened and the truck rolled backwards into that daycare playground. Talk about a liability issue. That's huge. And I also agree with Joe and the comp plan. It's not an ideal situation when we develop the comp plan to have a convenience store located in this corner, but I do like it set back from the corner because then it gives it more like a park-like almost feel on the corner rather than a big building there.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Any
And to
other
be
last
honest, the DOT made a comment about that they want the building back. It was interesting.
So,
Okay.
yeah, in the truck parking area, I mean, you talk about fencing, you might want a solid vinyl fence, but you probably also want to have bolsters there as well, so that trucks can't, they're going to hit something that's going to stop them. Yeah, the other way I would see to move that convenience store up into the corner would be to get rid of the drive-through. I'm wondering, Dwayne, if you can comment a little bit on what kind of drive-through experience you have with, what percentage of your stores have it? Are you converting and adding drive-through lanes? And I mean, is this typically the morning commute that uses the drive-through for coffee, or what's going out the drive-through window for the most part? Is it lunch as well?
Wish, Dean, that I had information to share with you. We don't run a single site today with a drive-through. We are in the process of converting 2 existing sites to be drive-through. I've got another site we built 2 years ago that is drive-through ready, but we haven't started to operate it. It's something that we've built into our design of our stores so that they're drive-through enabled. But whether or not we start out operating it on day one, I don't know. It's more of I would call it an option rich type thing, that if the future becomes even more drive-through than it is today, 3 years from now, we're in a position we can run it. So our business is viable moving forward. We may never run it, but our vision of a drive-through for us is coffee. It's a limited number of, say, sandwiches, pizza slices, those types of things that we can put out the window quickly to a customer.
And look, and I think it's something that's needed in the community in the mornings. If you ever go up to the donut shop and see the lines backed up for coffee in the morning. And at the same time, you're going to have a sit down area for coffee on the inside as well, correct still?
Correct.
So that's also needed in the community as well. So, I mean, there's positives and negatives on any project. So hopefully we can soften some of the negatives and accent the positives on this project.
Will it be good coffee?
It'll be fresh coffee.
No, but will it be good coffee?
It's good to me.
How about frappuccinos?
That's what I buy. I bought those little glass ice ones.
Yeah.
Okay, let's sum this up then for tonight, if we could.
Yes.
So I'm guessing Jamie and Dwayne, we threw a heck of a lot at you tonight from all the members here. And you're going to try and come back in 2 weeks if possible. Jamie, Dwayne?
That's our goal.
Okay.
Dwayne's going to be on me.
I just would say one thing. I hope by what we showed you tonight, you do get the impression that we did listen to you last time.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope I've got 3 pages of notes from tonight's conversation, and we're going to take a good run at this again here in a couple of weeks.
Okay, great. We appreciate you working with us. Thank you.
CJ, what are the deadlines for them for submitting for the next meeting?
Well, it depends on whether they're going to be submitting a full application or whether they're just going to come back with additional concept. But I'd have to look at our submittal deadline to tell you for sure. So, but in any event, it sounds like they're getting ready to submit a full site plan application, at least if I had to extrapolate here. But at the very least, the project appears to be moving forward. And I think it would be marvelous in person on the 28th to be able to see some of those material samples. If we're going to be all in person yet again.
Okay, great.
We'll follow back up with the applicants, of course. We've got a bunch of coordination to do and prep for the meeting on the 28th, but yeah, we'll certainly coordinate with them.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll update that EAF just so you guys understand that EAF is outdated at this point. So we have to redo all those forms, and we'll coordinate with CJ and John.
Yeah, those are from the last round of application, I think. Yeah. Okay, that's why I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
I caught some questions about that earlier.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're set for tonight on this project. Jamie and Dwayne, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, board members, thank you. I thought it was a very good meeting. You all brought in ideas, comments. I appreciate that. Community appreciates it. Thank you all for your input. And I guess a second, and I guess we're done for tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks
This is
for
it.
thanks
This
for
is our
running.
last Zoom. you guys.
One question for CJ.
2 years we've been doing this, and that's it.
CJ, is that a subtle reminder that we are going to be meeting in person on the 28th?
Well, I'm figuring that unless something incredible happens by the end of the day on Wednesday, open meetings law will return to being in effect, and we will be meeting in person on Monday, March 28th, to almost 2 years to the day.
Wow.
So you guys have been really good sports.
Back.
Thank you.
Remember, we were back for a couple of meetings, but
It was like, yeah, we had that. Yeah.
2 years to flatten the curve. Happened pretty quick.
Well, thank you all for being so tech savvy and cool about all of this. And of course, we'll still be broadcasting on YouTube for folks. So folks can still be able to see the meetings on YouTube. So, but we'll be encouraging people to come and participate, and of course, send comments as always. But yeah, unless I hear something different.
Yeah. Will you allow public comment via YouTube?
It's really up to chair, but I'm not planning on having Zoom anymore for planning board or zoning board.
CJ,
it's very
question.
It's a little difficult to run the meeting. You know.
They made a comment that the state wouldn't allow them to put the building out to the front of the corner. Is there any way we could have them provide that for us in writing?
Yes, of course. So I just want to also reiterate to the board that we are in the very beginning of the process of reviewing this project. We haven't even declared lead agency yet. So we're going to be doing a lot of collaboration with DOT especially. We've also circulated some comments of them some months ago about our expectations for town center. And this was actually before this project even came before this board. So yes, in short, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you all.
Al, thanks for running a tight meeting.
Thank you. Thank you all for the comments. Thank you.